Here at the Melanin Initiative, we simplify medical information into language you can understand. We create a safe space to ask your questions and share a nursing perspective. Today, we'll be talking about autoimmune diseases with Dr. Felicia Harris, a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner and entrepreneur. She's specializing in helping patients uncover the root causes of chronic illness. If you've been dealing with fatigue, joint pain, or mysterious symptoms and not getting the answers you need, this episode might be for you. If you're new here, welcome to the Melanin Initiative. I'm Dr. Kimberly Madison, a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner and one of your co-hosts here, along with Alicia and Geraldine, who send their love in their absence. We're a health literacy podcast. When we say health literacy, we're talking about your ability to obtain information, to understand that information, and then to use it to manage your health and advocate for others. We have two missions here. One is to simplify health information, both for the public and our peers. The second is to elevate the expertise of nurses, to bring awareness to all the diverse career opportunities in healthcare, and share with our clinicians all the ways that they can leverage their expertise, both in clinic and as entrepreneurs, which Dr. Harris is going to help us do today. If you haven't already, there's still time. We invite you to subscribe, leave us a comment, give us a thumbs up, share this information. Every time you interact with the algorithm, it shows it that this information is important so that when people like you look for topics like this, we'll show up higher in the search results. Remember, this show is for educational purposes only. The opinions expressed here are our opinions alone. They are not a representation of any of our affiliations. If you think you might be experiencing a medical emergency, you seek medical attention and medical guidance from your healthcare provider. If you think you might be having a physical emergency, you should call 911. If you or someone you know might be having a mental health emergency, you should call 988 or text 741-741. Today, we've got a powerhouse in the building. Let me tell you, when it comes to helping Black women get real answers and real relief from autoimmune diseases, this woman does not play. She's a family nurse practitioner with nearly 15 years of experience in traditional medicine, but she saw firsthand how too many patients, especially Black women, were told, everything looks fine, when they knew deep down something wasn't right. Instead of just handing out prescriptions and sending folks on their way, she took a different path, one that actually gets to the root of the problem. She's the founder of Functionally Balanced Health, a functional medicine telehealth practice where she helps women dealing with chronic joint pain, exhaustion, and brain fog finally break free from the cycle of symptom chasing. She focuses on gut health, nutrition, and lifestyle changes to help her patients reclaim their energy and get back to enjoying their life. So if you've ever felt like the doctor wasn't hearing you, if you've been struggling with unexplained symptoms and no answers, trust me, you don't want to miss this conversation. Give it up for the one and only Felicia Harris. Hey, welcome.
That was so good. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
We're excited to have you. As I mentioned, this plagues our community big time. And people are on Google waiting for appointments. They're going to appointments. They're not getting their answers. They're back on Google. It's frustrating, especially when it comes to autoimmune diseases. We've heard over and over again, patients going several years looking for answers, getting a diagnosis, nobody believing them, So I know this is going to be a popular episode. And we just thank you up front for your commitment to tackling it, because it's not an easy one.
Right. Yes, I'm just glad to be here and thankful to you all for even having me here.
Oh, our pleasure. Tell us where you're joining us from.
Yes, and so I'm located in Tennessee. Like it's already been said, I am a telehealth provider, but yes, I'm joining from Tennessee.
Wonderful. So we're going to do things a little bit different with you. I thought it might be really fun. We've done it in the past. We've done a couple. Alicia's really good about this, giving us like mock scenarios. And when I listen back to those episodes, they've been really fun. And, in medicine, one way we learn is we do these things called case studies or case reports, where we take one patient and we just talk about their presentation, their disease process, and kind of learn through that one patient. And so we could do that with you today, and you've been so gracious to join in on it. So I'll read the case study, and then we'll go through our questions and see about how you would approach our patient, Ms. Thomas.
Okay. I'm ready.
Here we go, everyone. Ms. Thomas, she's a 59-year-old Black female. She presents to a functional medicine nurse practitioner like Dr. Harris with concerns about ongoing fatigue, joint pain, skin rashes that come and go. She reports that for the past 2 years, she has experienced muscle aches, dry eyes, and digestive discomfort, but has struggled to get clear answers from her primary care provider. She has a family history of lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, and she's worried that she might have an autoimmune condition. Does this sound familiar to you? Doctor,
Yes, it does. Yes,
want
it
to like
does.
for you?
Yes. I'm sorry. What was the last part you said?
Is this a normal day for you?
Yes, this is very common for me.
And I think that's good for patients to hear because even though it's frustrating to know that you haven't gotten answers and you've been going back and forth, sometimes just knowing that you're not the only one can provide
Right.
a little bit of relief in what is
Hmm.
a very requires a lot of patience. So
Right.
let's start with Miss Thompson's case. She's dealing with fatigue, joint pain, muscle aches, digestive issues. From a functional medicine perspective, what stands out to you about her symptoms?
So, what stands out to me is that she's been having these things going on, these symptoms that can't relate to anything, the digestive issues, the joint pain, the skin flares, just all of that. And then also her history, family history of lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. So, is it okay for me to answer more than just what was the question?
You want
Just
to
what are
jump
my
in
thoughts?
there, right? So, I love that you brought up the family history. So, how much do genetics influence autoimmune disease risk, and what other factors would you consider?
So genetics plays a big part, but I want it to be known that just because you have a family history of an autoimmune condition does not mean that you necessarily will also get an autoimmune condition. There's a common saying that genetics loads the gun, but environment pulls the trigger. So genetics is just one part of what can cause an autoimmune condition. Also your environment, environmental toxins that we encounter on a daily, whether it's in our air pollution, whether it's in the water supply where we are, it can be lead in the water, it can be in our hair care products that we're using on a daily, our beauty products, the makeup that we're applying, our household products and cleaning products. So that's something that we encounter on a daily, and that toxin load can build up over time. In addition to the environment and genetics, it's also just overall lifestyle, your diet, the foods that you're eating, the stress that you're encountering, and maybe even traumas that you've experienced that could have been years ago, multiple years ago, but you're still holding on to that in your body. Your body is still in this chronically stressed fight or flight state. And all those factors together can definitely lead to an autoimmune condition.
Wow, you did a beautiful, beautiful job laying that out. I love how you talked about genetics as something that is a serious thing to consider, and also our responsibility to share with our family. But
Mhm.
we still have some other responsibilities, and there are some things also outside of our control. And that's so similar when we talk about things like high blood pressure running in our family, diabetes running in our family, right? Or
Mhm.
even obesity. We don't really talk about obesity running in the family so much, but it does because we have the same
Right.
habits, we eat at the same place.
Yes. Yes.
And I love that you brought up the trauma. I wasn't even thinking about that. We have done one episode. We have an in-house trauma therapist, Kelsey Wilson, who practices out of Virginia, and I think she just got licensed in
Mhm.
DC. We'll link that episode below. We did a whole episode talking about what is trauma, and she's also come on
Mhm.
and talked about different kind of diagnoses and therapeutic interventions that people can look into. And you mentioned the water. So I don't know when
Mhm.
your show is going to air exactly, but we've already had on Jasmine Cofield, who is the
Mhm.
founder of the Physicians Assistants of Color. She lives in Flint, Michigan. We
Oh, wow.
really has become known for one thing at the moment. So that's a very important point. And those are things we can be part of in our community. All those they have
Right.
boards with people and citizens sitting on those boards, monitoring the water. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to be willing and interested.
Right.
Yeah, I
Yes.
love that you brought that up. So let's talk some more about Miss Thomas. So she's seen multiple doctors and she hasn't received a clear diagnosis. In your clinical experience, why do you think so many Black women feel dismissed when they bring up symptoms like fatigue, pain, and skin issues?
For one, I think they feel dismissed because they don't have someone actually sitting and listening and taking the time to hear them. A lot of times, traditional medicine appointments are maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. And also, I was sharing this with someone else. A lot of times, we are even told, okay, what are your top two complaints or top three complaints? We'll address these, and the rest, okay, we'll address that next time in 3 months or 6 months, whenever your next appointment is. A lot of times, the appointment is rushed. The provider may be taking notes and not listening fully. A lot of times, I do feel like, if they're not someone that's understanding your culture and things that come with being a Black woman, caring for your whole family, having that stress upon you, or um, just things that even our diet, things that we love to eat, they may not be related to as well. And so things can be brushed off. Sometimes we're also, our pain is, sometimes people think that we are taking that, putting that, trying to think of the word that I'm trying to say, but making that more than what it really is. So all of this can just make it to where we will be dismissed. And it's really unfortunate. On average, people take about 5 to 7 years to even get a diagnosis. You may go through times of being misdiagnosed or just completely dismissed and told that nothing is wrong. It's very, the symptoms aren't easy to diagnose. They do overlap with other conditions, and it is very frustrating. It is very isolating. You can feel like no one understands. Will I ever get an answer? Is there anyone to listen to me? Anyone able to support me? And so those are the women that I want to work with. I want them to know that there is someone there for you and willing to sit down and taking the time, not rush, but really listening to you, and also listening to what you're not saying and trying to put those pieces of the puzzle together too. So
Oh, I love that. And I love that really will separate you from some other people out here, right? The fact that you're also going to listen to what they're not saying, because patients
yes.
aren't experts, right? They just know what they're experiencing. And so there might be some things that they don't know to mention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And even like we were talking about the trauma, they may not know that that is something that is so relevant, even if it was something that happened in their childhood, and they're still holding on to it years later, even at the age of, I think, Miss Thomas that we're discussing is 59 or 57. So there are things that we carry with us throughout our life, and it can really impact, and they may not know that. So it's important that I listen to them, the things that they say and the things that they don't say, and try to connect those dots.
Yeah, it's beautifully said. So what should patients do when they feel like their concerns aren't being addressed seriously?
So I would welcome everyone to definitely advocate for yourself. Seek out other providers if you're not feeling like you're aligned with the current provider who you're seeing, if you feel like you're being dismissed, not being heard. And then, of course, yes, there's definitely the option of functional medicine, which is a whole different approach. Functional medicine practitioners do look at everything that's at play, looking at your whole body. They do spend more time, typically more time than a traditional doctor does. An average appointment for me, I can speak for myself, that initial intake visit is at least an hour. And it's time just spent going over your medical history, talking about the things that you may encounter in your environment or stress or, your diet, or what is a typical day for you? What do you typically eat in a day? And just looking at everything, even dental health. And so really looking at your whole body. So if you're not able to find a doctor, a traditional doctor that listens, my advice would, be to try a different approach. Why not try functional medicine and see if it's something that you align more with?
Yeah, we actually have covered an episode, or we covered one episode for sure, functional medicine with Dr. Latea de Jesus. She came on twice to talk about functional medicine and her company, and also she
Mhm.
participated in our 7-3 questions. But for the audience who hasn't heard that episode, how do you describe functional medicine?
Yes, so functional medicine, I do like to tell people it is science, it is a science-based approach. It's a more holistic approach, again, looking at everything that is at play. We are really working to get to the underlying root causes and make those connections, put the puzzle pieces together to see everything going on in the body, everything that's at play. So I think we've already kind of touched on everything that can impact a disease, but I'll briefly share again. It can be things like diet, it can be things like stress and trauma. Maybe you're not resting. You know, when we sleep, our body is healing during sleep. So you may not be getting the appropriate amounts of sleep. You can have some issues going on in your gut. You may have some inflammation there. You may have some imbalances in your good and your bad bacteria. You may not be digesting food and getting the nutrients that you need, and that can be, cause for a disease or autoimmune condition. So there's much to look at, and that is the whole goal of functional medicine, is to take that more holistic approach, that holistic view, and trying to address that and not just give medications, not just treating symptoms, but getting to the underlying cause.
Wonderful. So, since you're going to go after the underlying cause, in Miss Thomas's case, based on her symptoms, what potentially could be the underlying issues that might be contributing to her condition?
With her, I mean, everything that I just named could be potential issues. We would sit down and go over her history more in depth, and that would give me more of an idea. In functional medicine, a lot of times we do really invite the patient to be a part of the plan as well. I want to hear from her and see what are her thoughts. What does she have questions about? Because she lives in her body, she's experiencing things, she knows what's different for her. So talking with her and including her in any of the treatment plans and the testing that we do, we can always work on, just lifestyle things. Again, getting that rest, working on stress, getting some movement in. So those are things that we, always talk about. Just being more mindful, thinking about the thoughts that we're having, because they impact our body physically as well. But looking at after looking at her history, we would decide exactly what testing we would, like to pursue to see what we can find out more about those root causes.
You've mentioned that gut health is a major factor in autoimmunity. So, giving her reports of bloating and digestive discomfort, how could issues like leaky gut or food sensitivities be playing a role?
Yes. So gut is huge. We have about 70% of our immune system that resides in the gut. And so when we have an issue with our immune system, like an autoimmune condition, we like to look at the gut. Um, the stool testing that we do can definitely show signs of inflammation. There's markers that tell us specifically if you have inflammation in the gut, which can be spread throughout the body. There are markers on our stool testing that show if you have something called leaky gut, which is just we have an intestinal barrier, and you may have the junctions of that barrier may not be tightly together, so it may have some holes in the gut is what I would call it, and things can leak through into the bloodstream and cause issues there. So that's something that we can look at as well on this gut test.
Hi, I'm Alicia from the Melanin Initiative podcast. Our mission is twofold. One, to simplify complex health information so you feel empowered to ask questions, educated on how to manage your health, and confident to navigate the healthcare system. And two, to elevate the expertise of nurses, spotlight the diverse career opportunities within the healthcare industry, and inform our peers how to leverage their expertise as clinicians and entrepreneurs. In less than 2 years, we've grown to over 50,000 views and 1,000 downloads, with an international audience spanning the US, Canada, the UK, Australia, and more. Our engaged listeners are professionals, entrepreneurs aged 25 to 44 who value authentic, impactful content. Want to connect with this dynamic audience? Advertise with us. Send in your 1 minute video ad and let's amplify your brand. Email tmi.melanin@gmail.com for rates and details. Let's work together.
Okay, so let's get into these tests that you would run. So in the first appointment, are you having that full hour? Is there some kind of consultation? Or are you just jumping into it?
So typically with me, I do have a free consultation with people who are interested in working with me, just so I can learn more about them and see how is this really impacting their daily life. What is it that they're looking for? Is functional medicine a good option for them? Explaining more to them what functional medicine is, what the approach is, and just how we would work together. And then if someone decides to work with me, then we would schedule that first hour-long appointment, going over all their history, and then deciding together which tests we would do.
And these are telehealth visits, correct?
Yes, they are all our telehealth.
Cash or insurance?
So my practice is cash based. I do also accept HSA, health savings accounts, or flex savings. So a lot of times insurance does not cover, unfortunately, functional medicine. So that is something that a lot of times insurance can dictate what we can do as providers in the traditional space, as far as, medications we can prescribe or treatments or testing we can do. So that's something that we don't have to worry as much about. But yes, it can be a barrier at times. I do like to work with people, even, work on payment plans. Like I said, I do accept the health savings accounts, things like that. So I know when someone is looking for answers, looking for relief, they really are, and they're willing to make the investment. I'm willing to work with them and do what I can so they can get answers and get that relief. So
Yes, and we know, at least in my experience, most patients seek out functional or even integrative medicine after they have tried everything in Western medicine. You said 5 to 7 years on average. Look, I've spent a
yeah,
lot of time, a lot of money, and nothing. So
right,
I have nothing left to lose. So, most
right.
of those patients are more than happy because they know what they're getting at it. They know exactly who they're seeing. They know
Mhm,
exactly how long the visit's gonna be. It's
mhm.
gonna start on time. It's transparent. There's no extra bills coming in the mail, and they're
Mhm.
getting answers to the
Yeah.
problem said over and over again, which is what the public complains about. They don't think we're looking at the problem.
Mhm. Right.
Yes. The
Getting
cash
answers, being heard. Yes.
Mhm. So when you do the stool test, what can it reveal about gut health and immune function?
Yes, so it can reveal a lot about gut health. It can show if you have any kind of pathogens going on, like bacteria, viruses, if you have any fungi or yeast there. It can show just the balance of your overall good and bad bacteria in the gut. If that's not properly balanced, then that can cause issues. Like I said, 70% of our immune system is within the gut. So there are markers that just show us how our immune system is responding. um, there are markers that show about inflammation. There are markers that are specific for certain autoimmune conditions. So if these are elevated, there may be a risk for these certain autoimmune conditions. We can learn more about leaky gut, if there's a risk for that leaky gut, if you're not having very good support of, we have a thick layer of mucus that is on top of our intestinal barrier. And so if that's not really thick like it needs to be and it's thin, things are more likely to leak through when you have that leaky gut. So we can see if you need support there. So it tells us so much. It tells us if you're having issues with digestion, if you don't seem to have the appropriate acid needed to break down foods and get the nutrients that you need.
And
So
that
it's
will be done at home?
yes. So the stool testing that I do is ordered, and then the stool kit comes to you to your home. It comes with simple instructions that will tell you step by step on how to complete it, how to collect the stool sample, how to send it back off to the lab. You actually package it up, and actually you can even put it outside your door and they will come pick it up for you. So it's very simple.
It
Mhm.
sounds like it. So let's talk about Miss Thomas. What dietary changes would you recommend to help her reduce inflammation and improve her symptoms?
So, with diet, with her, I would definitely recommend things that are anti inflammatory. I actually am studying right now myself something called an autoimmune protocol, or AIP is what it's abbreviated as, which is kind of a play on the paleo diet. But what it is, it's an elimination diet, eliminating foods that often cause the inflammation and trigger those symptoms that Miss Thomas may be experiencing. So some of the foods that we would eliminate would be, I mean, it is a lot of foods, but some foods would be eggs, dairy, gluten, nuts, nightshades, which are things like bell peppers or even hot peppers as well. So there's a lot of various seeds, seed oils, which aren't good. We would replace these things with more whole foods. Don't eat those processed foods, foods high in sugar, alcohol. We want to cut that. We will replace it with things that are good for inflammation, like omega 3s, more healthier fats. Um, so these are different things that I would recommend for her. And if she was open to an AIP protocol, we would do that. Typically, with that, the elimination is done for about 30 days at least. It's not something that's supposed to be done long term because, like I said, we're eliminating so much, but 30 to 90 days. And then we eventually start reintroducing foods and seeing how your body responds. Are you having these skin issues again while we introduce this? Or is she having the digestive issues with the reintroduction of a certain food? And a lot of times people may not, will see how they respond. And in the end, they may stay on what's called a modified AIP diet, which is they haven't reintroduced everything, but they reintroduced what they can tolerate, and really foods that are nutritious and tolerable is our goal.
Okay.
Mhm.
So we know that she's probably been offered lots of medications, but she might be looking for some other options. What
Mhm.
supplements, herbs, or holistic treatments might you recommend?
Mhm. So, based on the testing, that would tell me more. For example, if it looked like she has some issues with the leaky gut, or that mucus layer isn't as thick as looks like that's not as thick as we would want it to be, we can provide some intestinal barrier support there. We can do things like aloe or marshmallow root or even licorice to help support that mucus layer. There are supplements to help build up and heal that intestinal barrier so we're not having leaky gut. So those are some things that would address that. Of course, like I've already mentioned, just eating those anti-inflammatory foods, eating more fatty, healthy fats, maybe taking the omega 3s. Vitamin D is important as well. Magnesium is important. Um, so those are just some examples. Hmm.
Beyond diet and supplements, are there any lifestyle changes like stress management or improved sleep that could make a big difference in her health?
Yes, definitely so. Definitely. Getting the sleep is very important because, like I said, that's when our body heals. Our gut is even healing during that time. So, getting sleep is at least 7 to 9 hours, I would like to say, is essential. Trying to get on a routine so that you're going to bed at the same time and getting your body used to that. Once you start feeling tired, go ahead and lay down. If you can't lay down, I've been told to just go ahead and get up until you are tired and then lay down and let your body get the rest that it needs. Avoiding things like the blue light on TV or on telephones, and um, even not eating too late at night. So your body isn't thinking, oh, I'm supposed to be up and working and digesting. Like, we need to really be doing things to help our body promoting rest. So sleep is essential. Stress management is huge as well. Simple things. There's simple things we can do. Going outside and taking a walk, especially in the morning, first thing in the morning, within those first 20 minutes, getting that sunlight, that can help with not just stress, but also putting your stress or cortisol, which is a stress hormone, putting that and the melatonin is another hormone imbalance. And so that's great, getting that morning sunlight. Maybe just taking, some deep breaths, taking a moment to just take some deep breaths, doing some journaling, even, or just sitting in silence. There's so many just simple things that we can do. We feel like they're so simple, they're not beneficial, but they actually are.
I couldn't agree more. If Miss Thomas was listening right now, feeling frustrated, exhausted, what kind of words of encouragement would you give her?
I would tell her, I would encourage her to come see me. I would tell her that there are answers. There are answers. There are things that we can do. Healing is not linear. So, you might have some days where you're feeling better, and then you might have those setbacks where you're having those digestive issues and flares and joint pain, but not to give up. I would tell her to look for a community of support, maybe even other people who are dealing with autoimmune conditions that she can relate to, that she can share her story with, she can hear their story, and that she can be uplifted by that. I would encourage her to share with her family more about what she's going through and what this means for her in her everyday life. They're not, getting that lived experience, but by sharing, hopefully they can understand more, and maybe they can see why, her day to day may be different, why she may be canceling plans because she's not feeling well, or why she may be laying in the bed. And, some people say that they've been told that they're just lazy, but that's not the case. They're just so exhausted that all they can do is lay in the bed. Um, but I would tell her that there are people that really want to work with her and work to get to the underlying causes. There are things that we can do. There are some more advanced tests that aren't done at typical traditional medical practices that we can look at, that can share more with us about what's going on in her body. And that it can take time, but with time and with doing those simple actions, like I mentioned just earlier, that some healing, can take place.
And isn't that what everybody's looking for? I love that you pointed out the benefits of support groups. And we've had two founders of support groups, Dr. Tanda
Mm-hmm.
Johnson of Beautifully Unblemished, a vitiligo support group, and Aisha Patrick of support group for Black women with psoriasis. And at the time that we were recording this, I'm at a conference, and one of the speakers said exactly that same thing. So unlike you, who has an hour to sit with your patients, people in primary care and a lot of other specialties have very limited time. And so while we would love to spend a long time, like you, being able to talk to our patients in depth, answer all their questions every time. And you mentioned, hey, we want you to list the top 2, and next time we'll cover the others. But when is next time? And what do I do with it now? And so the support group, they're there. They can answer your questions. They can share their experiences, give you referrals, tell you about clinical trials. Sometimes they're
Yeah.
more up to date with what just came out yesterday because they have one patient to care for.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of patients to care for. And while, it can be challenging, I'm just being very transparent. The longer I
Mm-hmm.
practice, the more I realize how important it is for patients to advocate for themselves. And some of
Right.
that, knowing the words and the strength, because we tell people to do it, but there is a way to do it. And you can learn that from other people who have gone through this with you.
Mm-hmm.
So like Miss Thomas, where can people start their journey to better health? People who relate to her story?
Yes. So I would say if you are relating to her story and looking for other options, then definitely seek out a functional medicine practitioner or integrative, like you said as well. But, if you're frustrated with your traditional doctor, why not seek out a different approach? So I know many functional medicine practitioners, including myself, we all would be more than happy to sit down with you and take that deeper look at what's going on and work towards getting you answers and just getting you back to a life that you can enjoy again.
And I love that you mentioned all the other things we're putting on our body too, and in the body. I just released an article on the Higher Dermatology blog. Every once in a while, one of the trending topics is how the exposure to hair care products affects Black women's health, right? And we know that Black women, I think, disproportionately are impacted by autoimmune diseases, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a big chance that the things we're doing to ourselves. You mentioned the environment could be playing a huge role on that. So I just want to put a plug out there to for people to think about that too, right? Sometimes we're the cause, and it's not because it's just a lack of knowledge, you know.
Right. It is just a lack of knowledge. Actually, it's so interesting that you bring this up because myself and a colleague, we have just done a series. We just did our last one yesterday, actually, talking about the impact of hair care products. And I know it's a big topic right now, the synthetic braiding hair, how these things are impacting our health. They contain these chemicals, parabens, phthalates, formaldehyde, and they are impacting our overall health. They are impacting our, mimicking our hormones, causing reproductive issues, fibroids. I mean, there's so much, and it's just a lack of knowledge.
That's all it is. Yeah.
Right.
And not being at the table when these decisions are made, when products are put out, when regulations are set. And so
Right.
sometimes it's just raising our hand and stepping forward. And yeah, it's synthetic braiding hair has gotten a lot of attention. But in that article, I referenced some other studies that also mention things like things that we use every day, even in our
Mm-hmm.
daughter, little kids, gels.
Yes. Yes.
It's all
Yes.
things. And one
Mm-hmm.
study, they even saw women, it was like Black women, Vietnamese women, and maybe Latino women, uh,
Mm-hmm.
anywhere from 5 to 30 products a day. I had to go count
Yes.
my own products. It really, when you think about all the little things, this chapstick, this lotion, this deodorant,
Yeah.
it adds up. And if it's a
It
wide
adds up.
day or you're going out and you add a little bit more, it
Yeah.
adds up, friends.
It
The
adds up. Yeah.
laundry, once you start looking, it's like, ooh, I see how
Yes.
they got dirty.
Yes, it adds up for sure.
So how can
Yeah.
people connect with you?
Yes, you can definitely connect with me through social media on Instagram and on Facebook. I'm on there at Functionally Balanced Health. You can connect with me through my website, which is www.functionallybalancedhealth.com. I would love to connect with you all there, and feel free to message me, ask me any questions, what are my thoughts. But yeah, those are the best places to connect with me.
And we'll have all your contact information below. Thank you for doing the case study. What did you think?
I enjoyed it. I feel like there were times where I don't even know if I fully answered your question, but I did truly enjoy this. I think it was good. I think it was great to do the case study.
Thank you. And in real life, that might be the case too. We have a patient, they leave the room, and I'm like, did I answer their questions? Like
Yeah.
I said, I'm at this conference, and last night we had a whole master class on vitiligo, and we had a patient come tell her story. And she mentioned
Yeah.
two things I thought were super important. One, the empathy from the provider, not empathizing with her condition. But
Hmm.
then the mental health impact, which Tanja did really good job of. And all my colleagues, they were like, you know what? So many times the patient has said, oh, I'm fine, or dismissed it. And I didn't think to dig a little bit more. I didn't think, it's an opportunity to be reflective, right? We're all learning. We're still all learning.
Right. Right. Hmm.
I think you did a beautiful
Yes.
job. And thank you for participating. I think we'll do more of those. In
Yes.
particular, Ms. Thomas' story is one we hear far too often, women feeling unwell for years without clear answers. But today we've learned that there's hope, and there's providers out here who would love to help you, right?
Hmm.
I felt that.
Hmm.
By addressing the root cause and making key changes, relief is possible. You've demonstrated that today. If you connected with this episode, please share it with a friend or a colleague who might want to hear it. Dr. Harris, we thank you for sharing your expertise and your commitment to finding the root cause.
Yes. Thank you all again so much, to you and your co-host.
Thank you. You're welcome back anytime. Remember, everyone, you can email us your questions and show ideas to tmi.melanin@gmail.com. If you haven't already, there's still time. You can subscribe, leave a comment, share this content with other people, and particularly leave us reviews on the Apple and Spotify podcast. It shows the algorithm that this information is important so that when people like you and people like Ms. Thomas go in the search box, we'll pop up, we'll be higher in their search results when they do that. At the time of this recording, we release new videos on Sundays at noon Eastern on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And we drop the audio at 5 a.m. so that our night shift friends can be the first to get something and not the last. And you can get that on any of your favorite podcast apps. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.